स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय Ramakrishnaaya te namaha. Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the study of life of Swami Ramakrishna Maharaj, the direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, whose pre-monastic name was Shashi Bhushana Chakravarti. Now we were looking into that aspect of life where Swami Brahmanandaji, another direct disciple of Ramakrishna, has visited Chennai Mutt and is being taken around by Ramakrishnanandaji to show all the centers there. In order to invoke the living presence of Master, Ramakrishnanandaji wanted Brahmananda to conduct the worship service in Madras Mutt at least once. One day, Swami Brahmananda passed near the shrine after his bath. Ramakrishnananda stood in his way with folded hands and beseeched him to enter the shrine and offer worship to the Master. Maharaj was not accustomed to performing formal ritualistic worship and asked to be excused, but it was of no avail. He had to comply with the request of his beloved brother monk. And when Maharaj entered the shrine, Ramakrishnananda quietly closed the door and nobody knew what transpired there. The disciples loved one another greatly. Once at Madras, Ramakrishnananda received a letter with the news that Swami Brahmananda was ill in Belur Mutt. Now, during the worship service, Swami Ramakrishnananda addressed Sri Ramakrishna in the shrine. If you do not cure Brahmananda Maharaj, I shall throw you away into the sea. It was mainly due to Swami Ramakrishnananda that the message of Sri Ramakrishna spread far and wide in South India. He believed strongly that the whole of South India would be sanctified by the touch of the blessed feet of Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi and Swami Brahmananda. He therefore worked hard to arrange their visits on a grand scale in spite of insufficient funds. In February 1911, Holy Mother Sharda Devi went to Madras and stayed for a month in a two-storied house that Ramakrishnananda had rented near the monastery. He also arranged for Holy Mother Sharda Devi's pilgrimage to Madurai and Rameshwaram and accompanied her and her party. Holy Mother Sharda Devi later said, Shashi procured for me 108 bilva leaves made out of gold to worship Shiva at Rameshwaram. After Rameshwaram, Holy Mother visited Bangalore Basavanagudi Ramakrishna Ashrama. Observing the exuberant devotion of the local devotees, Holy Mother Sharda Devi said to her attendant, What a pity, I do not know their language, the Kannada language. They would feel peace of mind if I could say a few words in their language. As her words were translated to the devotees in Bangalore in English, they said, No, no, Mother, this is very nice. Our hearts are filled with joy There is no need of spoken words. One evening, Holy Mother Sharda Devi and a couple of her companions climbed a hillock behind the monastery to look at the sunset. As soon as Ramakrishnananda heard of this, he exclaimed in a spiritual mood, "Indeed, the mother has become Parvatavasini, the dweller on the mountain, an epithet of Mother Durga." He hurried to the place, prostrated himself before Holy Mother Sharda Devi and recited a hymn, Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadhike Sharanye Trembake Gauri Narayani Namostute. So he recited that hymn to the Divine Mother. Truly, the disciples demonstrated how to love and serve Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother Sharda Devi. This education in devotion is part of their legacy to future generations. Now, when we saw that Mother was very eager to speak to the devotees in Bangalore in Kannada, but she didn't know the language. At the same time, the devotees in Bangalore, they expressed when a feeling was translated into English, they said, "No, no, Mother, this is very nice. Our hearts are filled with joy. There is no need of spoken words." I remember another incident. Swami Atulananda, he was an European by birth. He had settled in America. He met Swami Vivekananda. Then, when he came to India to get Mantra Diksha from Holy Mother Sharda Devi, he was Dutch by birth. Now, he knew only language Dutch and English. He didn't know Bengali. Holy Mother Sharda Devi did not know English or Dutch. She knew only Bengali. Now, when he went to the shrine in Jairam Bati and got the Mantra Diksha from Holy Mother Sharda Devi, after he came out with great joy, now some of the people asked him later on, Swami Atulananda was Dutch, he was a European by birth, but settled in America. Now, some of the people asked him, Swamiji, you never knew a word of Bengali, and Mother never knew a word of English or Dutch. How could you people communicate? How could Mother give you Mantra Diksha? And how could you understand whatever Holy Mother Sharda Devi told you? Do you know what was the reply of Swami Atulanandaji? It's really something special. Holy Mother Sharda Devi, Swami Atulanandaji told that devotee, now, what will the language a baby, a then born baby, or a small baby on the lap of the mother, biological mother, what will the mother communicate with the baby and the baby communicate with the mother? Is there any language there? What will the mother communicate or speak with the child? What can the baby understand the language? And it cannot speak even. But don't they communicate? Does the mother speak to the baby and baby also speak back to the child? Feed the child, do everything? So mother spoke to me in the same language and gave me the mantra diksha. So that was the reply of Atula Nandaji. So language is only a medium by which we communicate our thoughts. It's our thoughts which are important. The thoughts and the feelings, they get converted into language, whatever we have learnt. So, language is only a medium to communicate our feelings to others. So, it is a thought, it is a feeling, emotion which is important. Now, we shall come back to study the life of Swami Ramakrishna. In addition to scholarship, an ideal preacher should have passion, burning faith, personal experience, renunciation, purity, and dependence on God. So, these are the important features of a preacher or a speaker, a lecturer. If you want to communicate things to the people, what are the things in addition to scholarship? An ideal preacher should have passion, burning faith, personal experience, renunciation, vairagya, purity, and dependence on God. Swami Ramakrishnananda was endowed with all of these. It is said that whenever Ramakrishnananda lectured, he carried in his pocket pictures of Sri Ramakrishna and of Holy Mother Sharda Devi. He would touch these pictures as he lectured. He would say, whatever the Master makes me speak, I speak, like a gramophone. I don't claim any personal credit from the talk and the scholarship which I have, which I give and which I have. It is they who make me speak. I'm just like the gramophone. And the real people, the master, that old gramophone, old type of gramophone, had a picture of a dog sitting there in front of the gramophone, and the master is speaking. So his master's voice would be written there. So here the comparison can be seen. Swami Ramakrishna is telling, I am only the gramophone. The one who is speaking is Sri Ramakrishna. I cannot claim any credit for this. It is the Lord who is making me speak. He would touch the pictures of Sri Ramakrishna and Mother Sharda Devi as he lectured. He would say, whatever the master makes me speak, I speak like a gramophone. I don't claim any personal credit from it. From 1897 to 1911, Ramakrishnananda traveled all over South India, preaching the Hindu religion and philosophy, as well as the message of Sri Ramakrishna. In 1902 or 1903, he went to Trivandrum as a guest of the Kalipada Ghosh and stayed for a month. He lectured there and also at other places in Kerala. So, Kerala is another state in South India which has a long coast, which is by the side of Tamil Nadu and below the state of Karnataka. So that is also called Malabar or Kerala, where people speak Malayalam. So now, in 1902 or 1903, Swami Ramakrishnananda went to Trivandrum. Trivandrum is now the capital of the state Kerala. It comes from the original name Tiruvananthapuram. Tiruvananthapuram has become Trivandrum in the mouth of the British because they couldn't pronounce it properly. Ananta Padmanabha Swami is the deity there in that huge, big, very famous temple. Lord Vishnu sleeping in the reclining posture on the Adishesha. And that Lord, in one hand, in that sleeping posture, is touching his hand on the Shivalingam. So Tiru Anantapuram, Tiru Ananta Padmanabha Swami, Vishnu temple famous. So that place gets the name Tiruvananthapuram. It has become Trivandrum in the mouth of the British. Now, Swami Ramakrishna ji came to Trivandrum as a guest of Kalipada Ghosh, a devotee of direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, that is, a householder disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, and stayed for a month. He lectured there and also in other places in Kerala. One day, Ramakrishnananda went to visit the Padmanabha Swami temple of Trivandrum. As he was about to enter the inner sanctuary, a priest asked him if he was a Brahmin. In reality, Ramakrishnanandaji was a Brahmin by birth. So now the priest there, the Orthodox priest, he asked him, "Are you a Brahmin?" Ramakrishnananda did not answer him directly, but started reciting a Sanskrit hymn in a solemn voice. No man am I, no god, no yaksha, neither am I Brahmin, nor Kshatriya, nor Vaishya, nor Shudra. No brahmacharin am I, nor householder, nor forest dweller, nor mendicant. I am the Self, the Supreme Paramatman, the pure consciousness. His melodious voice and serene look overwhelmed the priest and others, and none barred his way. In 1903, Ramakrishnananda visited Bangalore and Mysore and lectured extensively. In 1905, Ramakrishnananda went to attend the 72nd birth anniversary of Sri Ramakrishna in Bombay. One day, he told the local devotees that even the direct disciples could not fully fathom the greatness of Sri Ramakrishna. He said, "Do you think it is we who are preaching his wonderful life and message? Far from it. The Master himself is doing it in his mysterious ways. Wherever we go to preach about him, we find that the field is already prepared. Some are blessed by him in dreams, some get spiritual initiation directly from him, some are attracted by the quality of his teachings, which clothe the highest truth in simple language and parables, and some are inspired by seeing and hearing his disciples." So, it is the Lord who is doing everything. He doesn't need us. We are blessed by doing his work. That was the attitude of Swami Ramakrishnanandaji Maharaj. In March 1905, Swami Ramakrishnananda went to celebrate the Ramakrishna festival in Burma. Now, earlier it was a part of undivided India. It was called Brahmadesha. From Brahmadesha, Brahma, it gets the name Burma. Now they have changed the name. It is a separate country now, Burma. So Ramakrishnanandaji in 1905, March 1905, he went to celebrate the Ramakrishna festival in Burma at the invitation of the Rangoon Ramakrishna Seva Samiti. Every day, Shashi Maharaj, that is Ramakrishnan, they performed worship, lectured, and talked about the Master. On the festival day, the Swami walked 4 miles to pick Nageshwara Champa flowers, which Sri Ramakrishna liked when he was alive. So, you can see the zeal of Shashi Maharaj. He walked 4 kilometers to pick that Nageshwara Champa flower, which were Sri Ramakrishna's favorite flower. Sharat Chandra Chattopadhyaya, the celebrated Bengali novelist, then an unknown young man, accompanied Ramakrishnananda on this walk. Sharat, that is Sharat Chandra Chattopadhyaya, had read Darwin, Tyndall, Mill, and other Western thinkers and considered himself an atheist. On the way, this atheist Sharat asked Ramakrishna ji, Maharaj, why do you worship so much? To which Swami Ramakrishna replied, because I derive immense joy from it. To which this atheist Sharat, who had read Darwin, Tyndall, Mill, and other Western thinkers, who considered himself an atheist, he said, is ritual then the highest form of worship? To which Swami Ramakrishna ji replied, to see God everywhere, to see God everywhere is the highest worship. The second best is meditation. And the third, prayer and japa. And the last is external worship with rituals. We shall go through this. It's very, very important. What is the highest form of worship? Swami Ramakrishna is replying in this answer to that atheist, to see God everywhere is the highest form of worship. To see God everywhere is the highest form of worship. The second best is meditation. The third, japa and prayer. And the last, external worship with rituals. Now that atheist Sharat replied, then why do people perform such pompous worship? To which Ramakrishna ji replied, worship is not at all external affair. It comes from the heart. Ordinary people perform worship either to escape from the displeasure of God out of fear of God, or the ordinary people worship in expectation of fulfilling some desires. All these are low motives. But real worship is not done till devotion overflows. Real worship is not done till devotion overflows the heart and tears roll down from the eyes for a glimpse of God. That is real ritualistic worship. During his short stay in Rangoon, Ramakrishna visited some important places of interest. We should note that people, all the sadhakas, all the people will undergo this process of being atheist for some time. Swami Vivekananda used to tell, once he met an atheist, an Indian. Then he told him, no Indian can be an atheist because belief in God is in the genes of the Indians. You may pretend to be an atheist for some time. I too tried hard to be an atheist for some time, but I miserably failed. So don't try that. It is not in your genes. So this is a phase in our life, in everybody's life. Non-belief in God, that will be there for some time. Nothing to worry, it will go away. Because nobody can really claim he's an atheist. How? The problem with the ordinary people is, in the Abrahamic religions, and even some form of ordinary form of Hindu religion too, God is portrayed to the children and everybody as a person sitting there giving rewards to the people who worship him and punishing the people who do not worship him. So, this punishing aspect, the fear aspect, is the one which creates this idea in many people when they come up in their spiritual evolution, when they get the scientific knowledge. So, naturally, they tend to become atheist. But in reality, it is not so. Then, why is God shown as a person who is sitting with the scepter, punishing people who are bad or who are doing the wrong things? Now, the great saints, the rishis and the munis, they saw there were different type of people. People with the guna, the property or quality of tamas, tamas, inertia. So those people, they needed this, the tamasic people needed this fear. So they gave them the fear of hell, the fear of punishment for the tamasis. They will work only with that fear. So for the tamasic people, it is a fear of punishment, it is a fear of hell. Then comes the next group of people, they are rajasic. They're passionate, they have lot of activity. They don't fear anything. They have a lot of courage and boldness. For them, this fear of God or fear of hell doesn't work. Then what is to be given to them? They need rewards and awards. So they were tempted to lead a moral life, a good life, and do good for the rewards, for the awards, to get heaven, to enjoy heaven. So for the tamasic, the fear of hell, the fear of punishment. For the rajasic, it is the temptation of the rewards and awards and heaven and all these things. So now they were working, they were moral, they would do good works for the sake of getting this heaven and reward. But for the sattvic people, neither the fear nor the temptation of the heaven is needed. They love God, they serve humanity, they are moral, they are ethical. It is natural to them. They don't need any temptation or fear. So for them, it is pure love of the God. So all these things were given according to the need. But as and when these people who were tamasic were given this fear of God and reward of heaven or good things from God, naturally people, when they become scientific, they start thinking, why do I need this God? I can do my work. I do my hard work. Then what is the need of God or place of God in my life? So there was one person, a doctor from India, was working in Dubai. Now, this doctor thought, I have studied hard. I did all the hard work. I am now working as a doctor. I get paid for what I work. I believe in my efficiency and my hard work. Then why do I need God? Why should I depend upon God? So it is my hard work. I will do the good work. I will be moral. I will be ethical. I don't need any God for that sake. So I depend upon my hard work. That was his attitude. So I don't need God. He was not a non believer. But why do I need God when I am doing hard work? If I am not hardworking, if I am not efficient, yes, I need God to pray, to help me. But now I depend upon my self effort. That was his attitude. So now that attitude changed with this incident. So he was working in a very big hospital. He was a good doctor, a famed doctor there. Once so it happened, one 80-year-old sheikh was a Arabian sheikh, was related to the royal family. He was influential and very rich. He was admitted to some problem in the urinary bladder. He couldn't, the organ couldn't perform. The urinary bladder was stuck for 3 days, and he was taken care of in the hospital. This doctor did the surgery and set right the whole problem. Then he became normal after 3 or 4 days. So when the bill of the operation and all the charges of the hospital was given to that old sheikh of 80 years, he started wailing and crying very loudly. Then the doctors and the attendants were a little afraid, because in those countries, the king, the sheikh is the law. It is not democratic countries. So whatever they tell, it happens. So now they were a little afraid. What will happen? He is crying so much. What is he crying for? So this doctor told him, "Sir, if you are afraid of the bill because the bill is too much," it was something to the tune of some 4 lakhs or 5 lakhs in Indian currency. So if you convert it into dollars, somewhere like $5,000 or $10,000. Okay, let us count from the South African rand, the currency, somewhere like 100,000 rands. So now the 100,000 rands, the charges, when he saw that sheikh, that relative of the king of that country, 80 years, very rich, he had oil refineries and so many other things, but he's crying for this bill, 400,000. They told, okay, if you don't want to pay so much, we will reduce it, we will give discount. Then that old man, the sheikh, told, I have huge amount of money, I can pay it very easily, it is a price for me. I'm not crying for paying this bill, huge bill, but I'm crying seeing the mercy of the Lord. See, one organ had problem with the urinary tract infection, and I couldn't urinate for 3 days, and I had so much of pain, and I had to undergo so much of suffering. And you operated it, and now I'm clear. But I was wondering and I was thinking, at the grace of the Lord, now just for maintaining my one organ, urinary tract, the bladder, the urinary bladder or the tract, for 3 days, you're charging 100,000. And there are hundreds of organs like that in my body: the heart, the lungs, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the blood circulation, the glands, so many hundreds of organs are there, intestines, innumerable organs are there. And the Lord is maintaining those organs for me for 80 years. 80 years, I am now 80-year-old. The Sheikh told, I'm 80-year-old. For 80 years, the Lord is maintaining hundreds of organs. You doctors maintained or set right that for 3 days, I had to, just for one organ, I had to pay 100,000. If now God charges me for all the hundreds of organs for 80 years, what would be the amount of bill? That is the thought which came to my mind. And I remembered the grace of God, infinite compassion of the God, and started crying and wailing. Not that I can cannot pay this small bill. It's a very puny bill for me. It's nothing. But if God charges me for all the hundreds of organs for 80 years, can I pay the Lord? So, seeing His mercy, I was dumbfounded, flabbergasted. So, that was the reply of the Sheikh. And after that, the doctor, that Bangalore or the Karnataka doctor, his whole idea of God changed. He started believing in God. He was, but he thought, I don't need God. I'm just self dependent upon my effort, self effort. Why should I believe? Why should I take recourse to God? So now his whole idea changed. So, like that, people develop this atheistic attitude in their life. Now, we have to understand another aspect of God. In reality, at the highest form, in Vedanta, in the Upanishad, God is explained as Sat Chit Ananda. The minimum words by which God can be explained is Sat Chit Ananda. What is Sat? Infinite existence, absolute. That is the truth. Sat means Satya. So that which exists is the truth. So God is infinite existence, absolute. Now there are two aspects of this existence, the insentient and the sentient. So sentient is the beings, the living beings. So is infinite being absolute. And also non-living things too, insentient. So altogether is infinite existence absolute. Whatever exists in this world. Now I exist, you exist, millions of people exist, millions of trillions of living beings, cells, microbes exist, plant exists. So they're all beings. So infinite being absolute, infinite existence absolute, and much more than that is God. Now, whatever exists is God. Suppose the atheist, he claims that I don't believe in God. God doesn't exist. Now the question is, first of all, you should exist to tell that God does not exist, isn't it? So you are, if without you being existent, how can you put forward your theory that God doesn't exist? So first of all, you should first exist to put forth the existence of God, who is infinite existence absolute. Now, if you have to deny the existence of God, you have to deny your own existence, because His infinite existence, you are also a small part of that existence. So to deny God, deny the existence of God, first you have to deny your own existence. Without denying your existence, how can you deny the existence of God? Because His infinite, total existence of everything, that is God. It is just like there was a politician who had gone to some special function of a widows organization, widows development organization. So a lot of widows had joined together and made an organization, and they were doing good to other widows and orphan children, and they were serving the society in their own way. So he had been invited to be the chief guest for some 10th year or 15th year of their existence. So the politicians, when they go to any programs, when they get the mic, loudspeaker, they will not give it up. They will start giving so many ashvasana. What is that? I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I will be doing this. The moment they get the mic, they will go on telling so many things like that. They will get very much enthused when they see the people, and they will go on making false promises. So as usual, this person also started making some promises. He was so much enthused by the work done by those widows organization. He had come with his wife, and everybody were there, the children and the wife, and they don't mean it. While talking, many of us also, we talk and we don't glibly talk so many things, we don't mean what we talk. So he started making promises. He told, today, this from this moment, I will make my wife join this widows organization. All were dumbfounded. They were looking at him with surprise. He didn't know what he was telling. Now just watch for a second. Told, from today, this second, I will make my wife the member of this widows organization. If the wife has to become the member of the widows organization, she has to become the widow. If she has to become the widow, this politician has to die, the husband. Without him dying, she can't become the widow. Without her becoming the widow, she can't become the member of this widows development organization. So similarly, if we have to deny the existence of God, in the same tune, in the same logic, I have to deny my own existence. Without first me existing, how can I deny the existence of God? Because God is the sum total of all existence, living and non-living, and even much more than that. He is the source of existence, his eternal existence. So that is God. So there is one more story like that. There was a debate. In the debates, there will be two parties. So they will give two topics. One should speak on one subject, the other or the opposite subject, opposite, similarly opposite. So one subject was God doesn't exist. The other subject in the debate was God exists. So they had to talk. This person from that village, he had to take up the subject, God doesn't exist. He was a very good orator. He knew a lot of arguments very well. So the other person who had to speak, God exists, he was not so strong like him. So the debate went on. They spoke and spoke and spoke. There was so much of arguments put forth. Then finally, this person who took up the stance of God doesn't exist, he spoke very well and defeated the other person who had to speak on God exists, and he was defeated. He got the prize. He spoke so very well. So another person from the village had come there to see him speak, and he was very much happy how his friend from the same village got this award in the debate. And he spoke very well. How very well you spoke that God doesn't exist. It was very good. It was tremendous. I didn't know that you had so many talents. You are a special gift of our village. So he started praising him. Then immediately this person who had spoken against the existence of God, he told, oh, what is that? I never did anything. It was all God's grace. This person had spoken, debated on the non-existence of God. He defeated him, the person who had the stance of God exists. And now he's telling suddenly, oh, it is all grace of God. So we just glibly claim that we don't believe, we are atheists. But in reality, you can't be one atheist because you are a part of that Lord. You are God yourself. God is infinite existence, absolute, and you are a part of this existence. How can you deny the existence of God? So now we shall go forward. During his short stay, Ramakrishnanandaji's short stay in Rangoon, that is the capital of Burma, Ramakrishnanandaji visited some important places of interest, including the Buddhist pagodas, the temple where Buddha is worshipped, because Burma is a Buddhist country. The temples where the Buddha is worshipped are called in that language pagodas. One moonlit night, that is Shashi Maharaj, went to see the Shwedagon Pagoda, which was situated in the suburb of the city. There he met an Irish Buddhist monk. So, a person from Ireland, he had now converted himself into a Buddhist monk. So now Ramakrishna met this Irish Buddhist monk. This monk was very impressed when he heard Swami Ramakrishna talk on the following day. That Irish monk told Swami Ramakrishna, all the religions in the world are insubstantial and narrow, and Buddhism alone is true and Catholic. That is why half of humanity follows this path, and for that very reason, I have adopted Buddhism. When he told this to Ramakrishna that all the religions in the world are insubstantial and narrow, Buddhism alone is true and Catholic. That is why half of humanity follows Buddhism, this path, and for that very reason, I, being an Irish person, I have adopted Buddhism. Now, Swami Ramakrishna Maharaj responded back. We respect all current religions of the world, as all of them are equally true and have the same goal, that is one God in view. To which Irish monk told, who is the propounder of this doctrine? When Swami Ramakrishna proclaimed, I being a Hindu monk and a follower of Sri Ramakrishna, we respect all the current religions of the world, as all of them are equally true and have the same goal in view.
Yeah, I won't eat anything now, right? But yeah, I'll try some.
When Swami Ramakrishna told that we respect all the current religions of the world, as all of them are equally true and have the same goal, that is one God in view. The Irish monk, Buddhist monk told, who is the propounder of this doctrine? To which Shishi Maharaj replied, Sri Ramakrishna, the divine incarnation of this age, lived and taught this wonderful gospel. Then the Irish Buddhist monk told, what is the speciality of his teaching? Now, Swami Ramakrishna replied, Sri Ramakrishna realized and preached the harmony of religions. Buddha, Christ, Muhammad, and other world teachers each proclaimed that the religion taught by him is only way to salvation. The difference between Sri Ramakrishna and the other prophet is that he himself preached no new religion. He practiced all religions in his life and experienced the universal truth underlying them all. Ramakrishna's message can be summed up in the sentence, as many faiths, so many paths. Jotomot, totopot. As many faiths, so many paths. All the faiths, all the paths leads to that one God alone. Another day, knowing that Sharat Chandra Chattopadhyaya, his atheistic attitude, Swami Ramakrishna said to him, all the atheists are in the core of their hearts true theists, believers in God, as they are always searching for God, though indirectly. Can they be atheists whose minds are busily engaged in the search of God? To which this atheist Sharat replied, could you tell me, Swami, why this disbelief in God assails in us? To which Ramakrishna replied, this disbelief is a great obstacle in spiritual life. It is not only an obstacle but a disease. One will have to clear up the past life tendencies ingrained in the mind by practicing spiritual exercises and good deeds like karma yoga. He on whom faith descends is very fortunate. That person who has faith needs nothing else. Faith in God is a precious treasure. Our disease is desire to enjoy the worldly material things. That disease to enjoy the worldly things, intense desire to enjoy these worldly things, makes us disbelieve in God. Why? Because if you accept God, if you accept religion, then you have to, there will be so many do's and don'ts. You have to give up this, some of the desires of material enjoyment. So people, they are so much after material enjoyment, so intensely they have the desire to enjoy this world. They think that it is practical to give up God. Otherwise, you cannot go into all these material enjoyments. So the desire, intense desire for material enjoyment, sensual enjoyments, so that makes them become atheists. Faith in God is precious treasure. Our disease is the desire, and the remedy is spiritual discrimination. God has given us the power to discriminate between the eternal and evanescent. Viveka, that is the discrimination to understand the real and the unreal, the eternal and the evanescent. If we forget Him, we shall be nowhere. To which that atheist Sharat replied, then why do we not see God? Now Swami Ramakrishna ji is replying, our master Sri Ramakrishna used to say, there are pearls lying on the ocean bed. If you want them, you have to dive deep to the bottom. You can't get them if you float and swim on the surface. God does exist, and if you wish to see Him, you must undergo a regular course of spiritual discipline for a certain period of time. Now the atheist Sharat told, if God always thinks of the welfare of human beings, why then have the human beings so much misery? Why is there so much of misery in this world if God is always thinking of the welfare of human beings? To which Ramakrishna replied, God is all auspicious and all powerful. Whatever He does is always for the good of all beings. Our parents wish for the welfare of their children, but they are not all powerful. Endowed with these two qualities, if God allots sorrow and suffering to anyone, then know for certain that it is His blessings in disguise. What we call misery is in fact His kindness. We forget God in our greed for transient pleasures. So He makes us remember Him by these little miseries. His kindness is expressed through both favorable and unfavorable circumstances. When He adorns our coveted playhouse of life with wife, husband, wealth, friends, fame, and so on, it is the pleasant kindness of God. But when He takes them away one after another, makes us shed tears and drags us forcibly towards Him, it is unpleasant kindness. Now, this atheist Sharat had a long conversation with Swami Ramakrishnanandaji on various topics, which is recorded in the story of dedicated life. The influence of Swami Ramakrishnanandaji, his visit and lectures took shape 20 years later in the form of two beautiful institutions, the Ramakrishna Mission Hospital and the Ramakrishna Mission Library and Cultural Center in Burma. When the military regime took over Burma, they stopped all the other religious organization in Burma other than Buddhism. Ramakrishna ji was a powerful orator, a delightful conversationist, and also a serious writer. He was such an erudite scholar that he could lecture and write in three languages: English, Bengali, and Sanskrit. He could also speak Tamil, the local language of Madras. He translated some teachings of Sri Ramakrishna into Sanskrit while he was in the Alam Bazar monastery. He also wrote a beautiful Sanskrit hymn on Swami Vivekananda, Anitya Drishyeshu Vivichya Nityam. That is a famous composition by Swami Ramakrishna ji in Sanskrit about Swami Vivekananda. So if you read that wonderful poetry or the stotra on Swami Vivekananda, you can know what a great scholar in Sanskrit Swami Ramakrishna ji was. So Ramakrishna ji also wrote a beautiful Sanskrit hymn on Swami Vivekananda. In addition, he composed Sanskrit mantras for the Brahmacharya vows of the Ramakrishna order. Further, he introduced and systematized the ritualistic worship of Sri Ramakrishna. Whatever we do the worship now, the ritualistic worship of Sri Ramakrishna, that was all given in that format from the scriptures and reduced to this form. Whatever we do, the worship of Sri Ramakrishna is given by Swami Ramakrishna Shishi Maharaj. Further, he introduced and systematized the ritualistic worship of Sri Ramakrishna, which is now more or less followed by the centers of Ramakrishna order. Ramakrishna ji contributed many articles to the Bengali Udbodhan magazine and wrote Sri Ramanuja Charit in Bengali, an authoritative life of Ramanujacharya, the propounder of the qualified monoistic Vedanta, Vishishtadvaita. This book has been translated into English. He also translated some of the writings of Swami Vivekananda from Bengali into English and vice versa. He had so much regard for Swami Vivekananda that when he heard that Pandit Pramatanatha Tarkabhushana had corrected Vivekananda's Sanskrit composition, he became upset and commented, "Those words of Swami Vivekananda were composed by a rishi, a seer of truth, so it cannot be changed." Ramakrishnananda's main work in English are God and Divine Incarnation, the Message of Eternal Wisdom, Sri Krishna, Pastoral and Kingmaker, for thinkers on education, the Ancient Quest, Sri Ramakrishna and his mission, and Search After Happiness. These are all the different compositions written by Swami Ramakrishna ji Maharaj. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the sannyasins, the man of renunciation, is a world teacher. They are called Jagat Guru, world teacher. It is his example that awakens the spiritual consciousness of men. Swami Ramakrishna was a sannyasin of spotless character. He once said to an American devotee, man must give up everything to God. Then alone he thrives. If you study all the personal religions, you will find that all preach renunciation, vairagya. Renunciation is their fundamental teaching in all the religions. Another time, Ramakrishna explained the mystery of renunciation. Those who give up the world for spiritual life are giving up the uncertain for the certain. Those who give up the world for spiritual life are giving up the uncertain for the certain, the passing for the permanent. All our power comes from renunciation. Only when we have given up our lives do we begin to live. At present, we are like prisoners. We may get a glimpse of freedom now and then, but the world falls upon us when we are off guard and drags us back once more into our prison cells. As soon as a man finds out, however, that these little pleasures of the flesh are nothing compared with the infinite pleasure of the spirit, the Paramatman or God, so then the human being wants to renounce, not for the sake of renunciation, but because he has found something higher and better. It is just like Swami Vivekananda used to tell, if you have a cup of nectar, ambrosia, and there is another cup of sewage water or gutter water. Now, is that renunciation that you give up this gutter water or sewage water and you take ambrosia? It's automatic. It is by default. You will take what is permanent. You will take what is something better. So that is vairagya. That is not something giving up something and other things. You go for the higher. So if you understand these wonderful incidents from the life of Swami Brahmananda, then you will get a better view of what is renunciation. Once a devotee came to Swami Brahmananda and started praising, oh Maharaj, oh Swamiji, you people are so great. Why? Why do you call us great? Because you have given up everything for the sake of the Lord. You have given up family, wife, husband, mother, father, everything, wealth, for the sake of God. So you are great renunciates. Then Swami Brahmananda ji told, no, no, we are not at all renunciates. You have not given up anything at all. Why, Swamiji, why are you telling that? Are you joking at my words? No, not at all. You householders are greater renunciates. You have given up. What are we? What are we monks and sannyasins given up? Nothing. You are great renunciates than us. Swamiji, don't play prank. Please explain how can that be? You have given up everything, home, hearth, wife, children, husband, what do you call everything, all the enjoyments of this world, and you are going towards God. Are you not great renunciates? No, not at all. We monks and sannyasins are not renunciates at all. You householders are the renunciate. Can you explain it, Swamiji? Then Swami Brahmanandaji told, see, what have we renounced? We have given up this small, puny, little world for the sake of the infinite and big Lord, who is infinite, who is so big. So, for the sake of that infinite and big Lord, we have given up this small world. What is that? It's not at all renunciation. See, you householders, I've given up that big God. You renounced God itself for this small world. Whose renunciation is greater? Your great renunciation. You have renounced God itself. You have given up God itself, who is infinite, who is so great, for the sake of this puny world, useless, puny world. You have given up that big God Himself. You have renounced God Himself. Then whose renunciation is greater? Two householders are great renunciates because you've given up God Himself. We sannyasins and monks are not at all renunciates. What have we renounced? We have renounced only the small world for the sake of that big God. So even though it is something funny, we have to think, we have to understand the depth of the words behind it. So what is renunciation? Giving something lower, smaller, for the sake of something higher. That is renunciation. That should be very smooth, isn't it? So that's why let us go through the words of Swami Ramakrishna Nandaji. What is renunciation? What is vairagya? It is very, very interesting. Why is Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Ramakrishna Nandaji, Shashi Maharaj is telling that his master Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the sannyasin, the man of renunciation, because he has renounced everything for the sake of God, is a world teacher, Jagat Guru. It is his example that awakens the spiritual consciousness of men and women. Swami Ramakrishna Nandaji was a sannyasin of spotless character. He once said to an American devotee, man must give up everything to God, and then alone he will thrive in spiritual life. If you study all the personal religions, you will find that all preach renunciation and renunciation only. Renunciation is their fundamental teaching of all the religions. Another time, Ramakrishna Anandaji explained the mystery of renunciation. Those who give up the world for spiritual life are giving up the uncertain for the certain. The world is uncertain, but God is certain. So they are giving up the uncertain for the certain. The passing, the temporary, the fleeting world for the permanent. They are giving up the passing for the permanent. All our powers come from renunciation only. Only when we have given up our lives do we begin to really live. At present, we are like prisoners. We may get a glimpse of freedom now and then, but the world falls upon us when we are off our guard and drags us back once more into our prison cells. As soon as a man finds out, however, that these little pleasures of the flesh are nothing compared with the infinite pleasure of the spirit, so then the man or woman wants to renounce, not for the sake of renunciation, but because he has found something better. He has realized the hollowness of the enjoyments of the world and can be satisfied only with higher enjoyments. Renunciation means giving up a lesser thing for a greater thing. Renunciation means giving up a lesser thing for a greater. Now, after describing about renunciation, Swami Ramakrishna Nandaji is speaking about selfishness. Selfishness is sin. Unselfishness is the first milestone on the path of spirituality. See, very, very important thing which we have to note. We do not know. We become more selfish and tell we are going forward in spiritual life. Not at all. Yeah, Ramakrishna Anandaji is giving the basics of spiritual life, basics of religion. So he's telling selfishness is a sin. So if selfishness is sin, then what is unselfishness? Unselfishness is the first and foremost milestone on the path of spirituality. A selfish person may perhaps enjoy comfort and health, but a sannyasin, a unselfish person, can never afford to be selfish. Swami Ramakrishna said, so long as we are selfish, our work must be fruitless. We may deliver fine lectures, we may gain name and fame, but the actual results will be nil. The moment, however, that our little self, the ego, the moment, however, that our little self disappears, at that moment our real works begin. Then we may live an obscure life. Then we may live an obscure life and go nowhere, but we shall accomplish wonders. So, when this little puny ego goes away, when our selfishness goes away, then the work of God starts then. Ramakrishna used to tell, you know, during big festivals or big programs in the house, there will be a store where all the costly things and many precious things for the cooking and for the program will be stored. It will be locked. The owner of the house, the responsible person, will be always having the lock and key, and he will give whatever from that store. But now, if the owner finds a responsible person, man of integrity, to look after the store, he will give that key, lock and key to him, and he will go to do some other higher jobs or interesting jobs. So now, until that person who's looking after the store with the key is there guarding the store, the owner will never come there. He will be doing his work. Now, when this person is taking care of the store, the costly things there disappears or he wants to go away, then again the owner will come back to that place and take the responsibility of the store, which has a lot of costly things. So, giving this beautiful example, Sri Ramakrishna, the master, is telling, until the ego is guarding our heart, the Lord will disappear. When this ego, the selfishness goes, then the Lord appears there. Because if there is some person, responsible person to take care of our heart, our life, that is ego, the selfishness, then the Lord has higher jobs to do, he will go away. When this ego or the selfishness disappears, then the Lord will appear, he is already there. He will take care of the store, that is our heart. So this was a wonderful example given by Sri Ramakrishna. When I was in Bangalore in India, the doctor, the dentist told one of the wisdom tooth started going in different direction and causing problem. So he removed it. Then he told Swamiji, better you remove all the other three wisdom tooths too. It will create problems later on. Then I agreed and removed all the four wisdom tooth. So then one of the devotees asked me, Swamiji, if you remove your wisdom tooth, won't all your wisdom go away? Then I replied, yes, that is what I want. How is that, Swamiji? Then I told him, if my puny little wisdom goes away, then the infinite, huge wisdom of God will start acting to me. The present wisdom is of my ego, selfishness. When that goes away, the infinite wisdom of God will start working through me. So unselfishness is the basics of spiritual life. So at one place, Swami Vivekananda tells, and also Swami Ranganathananda Ji Maharaj tells, have you become spiritual? Have you become unselfish? So, what is the yardstick to measure you have gone forward in spiritual life? All may not get visions, all may not get something, the visions of God and other seeing light and so many other things to know whether you are pro. They are the milestones to progress forward in spiritual life. But the commonality, everybody, universally, what is the yardstick to measure that we are moving forward in spiritual life? Not that if you wear some special insignia, religious insignia, going to the temple, that is very small part, minuscule. And what is the real way to know whether we are going forward in spiritual life or we are regressing? Are you becoming unselfish? Do you feel for others? Are you serving the humanity? Or are you holding yourself first and want to get everything for yourself? So if you are becoming unselfish day by day, you feel for the world, you feel for the people, your heart has expanded, then you are going definitely going forward in spiritual life. On the contrary, maybe doing lot of worship and puja and so many other things, but you are becoming selfish and selfish. You are regressing, you are going backward in spiritual life. So the basics is unselfishness and selfishness. Now, in another place, Swami Vivekananda tells what is the minimum way by which we can explain about ethics and morality. What is the, with very less words and very less sentence formation, you can express about morality and ethics. Swami Vivekananda tells all that is selfish, all that is selfish is immoral and unethical. All that is unselfish, all that is unselfish is moral and ethical. So this is the minimum with which you can explain about morality and ethics. All that is selfish is immoral and unethical. All that is unselfish is moral and ethical. So that's why Ramakrishna Anandaji Maharaj here is telling selfishness is sin. Unselfishness is the first milestone on the path of spirituality. So if you want to measure, if you want to know whether you have gone forward in spiritual life, test yourself, analyze yourself. Am I becoming unselfish or selfish? Am I feeling for others? Has my heart expanded? Do I serve others? Do I keep others first or myself first? I've seen people in the family, they want everything first. They want to reserve a chair or a table for themselves. Nobody should eat before them. Everything should be first served to them. Everything should, the best of it should be given to them. All the others have to take afterwards. So all such nonsense will be practiced by the egoistic person. I've seen such persons. If somebody else takes or tastes other things, they will get angry. They will not like that at all. So that is pure selfishness. So if you want to become spiritual, are you spiritual? Are you unselfish? So selfishness is sin. Unselfishness is the first milestone on the path of spirituality. A selfish person may perhaps enjoy comfort and health, but an unselfish sannyasin can never afford to be selfish. Swami Ramakrishna said, so long as we are selfish, our works must be fruitless. We may deliver fine lectures, we may gain name and fame, but the actual result will be nil. The moment, however, that our little self disappears, at that moment our real work begins. Then we may live an obscure life. You may not be seen by anybody. Nobody knows you. So you may live an obscure life and go nowhere. But if you are unselfish, you shall accomplish wonders. So these are all the wonderful things in the life of Ramakrishna and the teachings are so wonderful. We can understand spirituality in total. So we shall meditate, we shall think of what we have studied in this wonderful life of Swami Ramakrishna Anandaji. We will stop our discussion now because we are nearing 8 o'clock. Now we can dedicate the rest of the time for clearing doubts or answering the questions. If you have any doubts, if you have any questions, you can ask. Any doubts, any question?
Om Swamiji.
Om Colin Shettyji, please tell.
Oh, what a wonderful display of Swami Ramakrishna Nandaji's attitude towards devotion and faith. Really, it's inspiring, and I think it's a lesson for all of us to take forward and take heed of his devotion. It's absolutely incredible. I know of no other person who can have such a devotion to his to the Lord as Swami Ramakrishna.
Definitely,
Thank you
he's
so
an
much.
ideal. He's an ideal for that. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Om Om. So there are no questions on the YouTube live chat too. So we shall conclude today's session with a prayer. Om Priyatam Pundarikakshah Sarvayagneshwaro Harihi Tasmin Tushte Jagat Tushtam Prenite Prenitam Jagat Harihi Om Tatsat Sri Ramakrishnaarpanamastu. Thank you. Namaste. Om Namo Narayana.